This is the UNspecial podcast. I'm joined with Holly Sabel. Holly and her husband Joe were on episode 4. Holly and Joe shared some valuable insights about their son Liam, who has a twin brother, and just their journey through finding out about autism and where they are now, and their powerful insights on marriage and communicating, being on the same page. But what stuck out to me a little bit on that first episode was your knowledge and implementation on the GAPS diet, which I've heard from numerous parents and a lot of the students I used to have, that it helped their epilepsy. It cleared up a lot of challenges they were having. And so was curious and wanted to pick your brain apart about everything GAPS or keto and just that whole process implementing it, because I think there's a lot of families out there that probably this is in their mind, but it's taking that next step, because as Joe said, it's a 5-course meal, so it takes a little bit of time and effort.
Yeah, it
But
does.
yeah.
Ultimately, so I was introduced to Natasha Campbell McBride by my mom, who sent me a link to a YouTube video. If you Google Natasha Campbell McBride on YouTube, this video will come up. It's a really old video, but she goes into everything, the reasons why she believes all diseases begin in the gut. And it's a powerful yet old video that but it's the information in there is timeless. And so basically, her belief is that our guts have, throughout the years, our gut microbiomes have become weak, have become unpopulated with good bacteria. And the reasons for that is because throughout the industrial age, first of all, like they used to have like farms, everyone ate local, everyone ate from their garden, everyone canned, everyone fermented, and all of that has been lost in our culture. We have gone from this healthy, diverse, food to quote unquote dead food in the stores. And for surely we were living off the SAD diet, which is the all standard American diet, and which consists of, a bag of Cheetos,
Yeah.
a loaf of Wonder Bread. Everyone has everyone has gummies or like fruit snacks to feed their kids, right? High C, orange, fruit punch. We all lived on Little Debbie's, Doritos in the 80s.
Yeah,
And
sounds like my childhood.
oh, totally.
Hot Pockets and plastic in the microwave.
Yes. And we didn't know it was bad. I mean, our parents were just busy. They just were like, just throw some, Pop-Tarts in the toaster for breakfast. Um,
Right.
and then, a good healthy oatmeal turned into Quaker oats, like in
Sugar packet.
yes, it's like 75% of that packet is sugar. Are there any grains in there actually? But I mean, we've come from this idea that food doesn't really matter, to all of a sudden we have like almost a 300% increase in childhood disease. And you talk about in the schools, I don't know what the percentage is exactly, but how many kids have ADD? How many
Yeah.
kids have, just a lot of medications in our school?
Mm-hmm.
And and you just have to ask yourself why,
Yeah.
and question what has happened. And so Natasha really brings you kind of through how our microbiome was changed. We started doing treating with antibiotics for every little sniffle. That has changed our guts. Women have all been on contraceptives for years and years. That has changed our gut microbiome. And frankly, like C-sections have become a thing. Like that's how you do it. Well,
That's crazy.
where are the doctors who are saying, but all of your healthy bacteria comes through the birth canal?
Yeah.
Where are these doctors saying, no, I mean, at all, obviously we need to have C-sections for when you're
Right.
needing, but, but patients are going there requesting it.
Yeah.
And I mean, the education of our doctors is really getting me, it really makes me curious
Yeah.
because you have the medical system that is only like there's only a semester of what is it, the food and diet and stuff. And so
Hmm.
um I just really question their approach. And Liam, I feel like helped me really wake up
Mm.
and really start to question more about where is everything coming from. And you can question the doctors.
Hmm.
You need to be your own advocate. I remember the first doctor that tested him for epilepsy. First of all, he misdiagnosed him. He said he was okay. And then 6 weeks later called me up and said, no, he's not okay. And then asked me if I wanted to put him on these drugs that were very sedating. And
Uh,
and then he gave me a choice of sending him to Mayo, and I chose to go to Mayo. But these doctors, when he was diagnosed, were so anti keto diet.
really?
Yeah, they were. And like just from the get go, it wasn't a natural way to heal. It was, let's go to the pharmaceuticals and figure it out, which I did ultimately. I obviously, I also will listen to the doctor and say, yeah, 8 to 10 seizures a night is not good, and we need
Hmm.
to get them under control. So but the goal for me right away was to heal part of his gut so that he wouldn't have that firestorm of seizures like he had. And
Yeah.
ultimately it did work. So
Did you, where did you hear about gaps? Or was that just from your research?
no, so it was from my mom. She had introduced me to that video, which I know I wrote it down here somewhere.
YouTube. Yeah, yeah.
On YouTube. Yes. Yes, it's Natasha Campbell McBride's YouTube video. It's called Overcoming Psychiatric Problems by Healing the Gut. And when you think about psychiatric problems, that's just all, I mean, that's a neurologist, what they treat. I mean, you can go from ADHD to apraxia to depression to, I mean, there's a long, long list of
Yeah.
treatable of things. So,
Well, I think it's like, might as well try.
yeah,
What's gonna
why not?
happen? Gonna
Right.
eat healthier?
Right. Right. And Liam is my best eater.
See?
He will eat anything. And, after being off of bread for so long, he actually prefers it that way. It's funny. He's okay with it and with not having bread.
So what were some of the big foods that you eliminated?
So from the get go, it was flour, sugar, and like any processed foods. So, and I do have to say, I jumped into it pretty quickly, and it takes weeks to kind of study this. I would give yourself as much grace and as much time as you can, learn it and then do it. I kind of was like scrambling, like, I just want to heal my kids. So I was putting pots of meat together to make meat stocks. And I gradually learned how to ferment cabbage and to make sauerkraut. But I think there was some failures in there. It wasn't perfect, but I think I did it enough that he was able to heal and somewhat, although I do feel like we could do it again in our family. So
Okay.
yeah.
What were so the seizures were the biggest sign that something was going on, and then that was the biggest indicator that GAPS was working.
The biggest indicator, I think it was the first month that we had removed gluten and dairy.
Hmm.
And the teachers were saying, whatever you're doing, Hallie, just keep on doing it. They noticed him starting to talk. And so that was huge. And that kind of encouragement from them, I was like, just keep going.
Yeah, that's crazy. Every a parent I talk to and hearing you guys say when I heard him talk, it's like just blows my mind. I mean, I have a 5-month old, and it's interesting because he was a preemie, so he's automatically on the radar for developmental challenges. And even the other day, I got in the mail from the San Diego Regional Center all of their information on early intervention. And I'm flipping through it, just like from teaching and talking to all you parents, flipping through it, like, is this happening? Like, I'm receiving this? I never thought I would be the one receiving this. But it's still up in the air. We just, he's 5 months, so you don't really know what's going on. But it was wild just to have that little bit of feeling that I'm sure you had it, a lot of parents of just like, what does any of this even mean? Like, how do I pick which one he should go to if he needs to go? Or even just the thought of taking him to his appointment in May where they're going to check out his brain and all that stuff. It's like, and then even when he was being born, he was 9 weeks early. They were like, every single day is a big day, a big step in his development. And then I'm like sitting there just thinking, man, well, I was like, well, if he is too early and he has developmental challenges, I'm the perfect person for it. So they were like trying to scare me. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm not really intimidated by that. I just, want safe delivery. So I don't know. I thought of that the other day and it's like, and then I thought of the gaps and my brain just started to rack. Like, if there is something that shows up, what are the early interventions that I could get going on? I was like, gaps, keto, diet. But then it's funny too that the formula they subscribe to us is full of corn syrup.
Cannot grasp. And I was so naive in the beginning with so having twins is just a whole different world with nursing your kids. And so I ended up failing and I put them on formula again. I did notice it um early on, but I was like, where do we go? Like what do we use?
Yeah.
There was a recipe online that I was like I looked at it and I was like, I was so overwhelmed by all the ingredients that I didn't even have the energy to make it. But ultimately, that's where it starts. It's like from the formula to everything that we feed them is just affecting their gut
It's
microbiome.
got to. Well, we went through probably 7 formulas until we finally, and he just like couldn't sleep. He's squirming like no other, and then he would poop blood or he'd spit up too much on one. But we figured it out, and it's a goat milk formula from Europe.
I heard about
It's a game
European.
changer. Yeah,
Yes, I
but
wish I had.
unfortunately, we're on the scramble because they're not shipping it. All the stores are sold out. I have a month's supply because two is one is none, right?
If you are in dire need, I know Weston A. Have you ever heard of Weston A. Price
Uh-uh.
Foundation? If you Google, and they're a very good resource for healthy eating and Wise Traditions is their podcast. But I
Okay.
know that they're the ones who have a formula recipe somewhere in their archives. And I don't know if it's goat milk or raw milk that they use, but they have added things, many added things to it to make it, you know, nutritional.
Yeah.
the best thing for a baby. But then I actually read that camel's milk was the closest thing to breast milk. And I actually was purchasing camel's milk for a while for Liam.
Yeah? Where do you get that? Egypt?
So crazy. Joe can tell you I have gone down some rabbit holes that I do believe in it. There's
Yeah.
a camel farm in the United States. I think it was in Colorado.
Okay.
I'll give you the information after. But I actually got the information from the book I had read by Jody Meshach.
Okay.
What is the title? Rethinking Autism, I think. And she has a resource in her book
Okay.
sending everyone to get camel's milk. She had,
Wow.
because it's also one of those things that camel's milk does help the gut microbiome too. So
Yeah.
a lot of autistic kids, I think, are formula fed.
I would
So
imagine, yeah.
yeah, that don't have European formula.
I
No.
don't think he's half European. My wife's from, well, she's was born in America, but her family's from Hungary. So he's half Hungarian, so the Europe it's in his blood.
Okay.
Maybe I need to go to Hungary and get some more.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know.
I hope that gets stocked up soon.
Yeah. How what's Liam up to now? Catch us up to speed. He's in school. Did you
Yeah.
find the
So
spot?
he is in school he's at the same spot. He is at Creekside Christian Montessori in kindergarten. We did the testing for the IEP, but we declined their services.
Nice.
Yeah, we just, ultimately I looked at the services and I really it didn't make sense to me to
I
send
mean
him to school for
that's
25,
huge.
yeah, to send him to school for 25 minutes of speech and then another in class and then another 25 minutes of speech out of class and occasional occupational therapy and then occasional help like one-on-one like in the class and we can add on occupational therapy if at all needed. He is right now in brain balance. I don't know if they have that in California, but it's like a franchise business, but they focus on missing milestones that the kids have missed and they go back and retrain the brain by using different exercises. And
Wow.
yeah, so he's doing that. You're also doing HBOT, hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, so ultimately we are trying to get his reading and just
Gotcha.
I don't know if it's the right place for him yet. I'm
Mhm.
still trying to discover what's best for him, but we did find out though that he has a little bit of dyslexia. So
Okay.
yesterday he was assessed at it's called Reading Connections in Green Bay and he wrote his name completely backwards like yeah. So yeah, we might be dealing with a little bit more.
What's Liam back? Oh, male? Liam backwards?
Yeah.
Male.
Yeah, except that the L is backwards and is very interesting. I didn't I didn't realize that he had that.
Huh. So when you turn down essentially you turn down the services, so he has no IEP.
Well, he technically does for a year if we want to go back there in the fall and say, yeah, we'll do it. Then they can do this or give him the services.
Were they surprised?
I don't know if they were surprised. I
Yeah.
think they kind of knew I was apprehensive from the get-go,
Yeah.
but there was pressure, I do have to say. I mean,
Yeah. Well, that's huge that you went in there with a plan. I mean, that's my biggest encouragement to parents going into IEP meetings. Just be clear on what you want and what you know your child your child needs and, essentially make it happen
yeah.
and bring up all the
Ultimately,
concerns.
yeah, ultimately the whole reason for us bringing him into the IEP was to get their blessing to have a half day kindergarten class day or whatever so that we could continue our services with the Truffert Society place. They're
Yeah.
the ones who were giving him one-on-one attention on a daily basis, and they wouldn't budge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you wonder if they really have. I don't understand school districts. Are they really for kids, or are they really for the funding that comes in? Or, I just kind of question that. They treated him so nice. I do have to say that. They did such a good job with him and the testing and everything. But when it comes down to what he really needed, I don't
Yeah.
think.
I mean, and you're a parent, so you have the strongest opinion. I think that's probably the challenge I had is school districts have their opinion, and it's kind of just shuffle in, shuffle out. The kid kind of has to fit into the system of the school, and then everybody in the school is doing the best they can, but there's a roadblock because of the system.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
I just
hard.
Yeah, I just learned yesterday that a lot of school teachers and a lot of like administrations are left brain thinkers. And like a person with dyslexia is right brained. And a lot of people with special needs or have learning disabilities have right brain thinking, which the goal is to get part of that left brain to work with the right brain. But my point is that, these teachers are left brain teaching right brain thinkers. So
Yeah,
it in a world that is, I mean, you kind of need to implement some of the right brain thinking, the way they learn.
totally. Just like diets. Not one diet's gonna work for everybody. So what is Liam like what does he eat in a day? Starting
So
from like he wakes up. What does that look like?
yeah, so I do have to say, this past year from owning a business has changed our diet. But we've stayed on, but we have like an 80%, 20%, 20% discrepancy in what we should be. So we he eats a lot of eggs and we do a lot of bacon and sausage. We used to be, with his keto diet, it used to be so much protein. It's
Yeah,
it's just it was kind of crazy.
it
I'm
turned into the Hulk.
sick. I'm actually sick of steaks, believe it or not. But yeah, so his typical day would be like a scrambled egg, sausage or bacon on the side. And then I get up and make them their lunch. It's either leftovers we have from dinner, but an example, I make, so right now this is not a good depiction of keto, but I'd make a meaty spaghetti sauce with gluten-free noodles. I put that in their lunch with sliced oranges and I don't know what I maybe there's some gluten-free crackers on the side. But on a GAPS diet, the foods that are very emphasized and always including in your diet is meat stocks, whether it's chicken stock or beef stock. And by that, I mean buying organic or regenerative farm um, frozen meats and really being particular about
Uh,
and making your own. And the other thing is um, raw milk. So if you can find a raw milk farmer, that would be the best place to get any dairy. But the only things in GAP's diet that of dairy are raw milk, cultured yogurt, kefir,
okay.
and that's describing like the full GAPS diet. There's an intro diet where all you eat is basically like boiled meats. You want the meat stocks, you want like vegetable soups, very, very easy to digest foods that's going to help implement the healing of your gut. And so like grilled meats are not kosher yet. Yeah, like for an example, I'll look at. So I have a resource that I use. Her name on Instagram, her handle was Bumblebee Apothecary,
Okay.
and she has this 30-day meal plan for GAPS.
Oh
And
nice.
I picked that up right away because I was like, I just need help. I don't know how
Tell
to
me
do
what to do.
this.
Yeah.
Tell me and I will do it. And
Uh-huh.
so the first week she has chicken soup and carrot soup for what you're eating. Now, chicken soup is not like full of noodles, not full of bouillon. It's basically chicken and probably carrots that are diced up with
Wow.
your own homemade meat stock. And you could use salt, like mineral salt, but
Yeah.
you're not gonna put like I used to put what is it, that bouillon in my soup, which always makes it so
Right.
tasty. But that's
Totally.
MSG in it.
Wow, for sure.
Yeah.
So, but wait, real quick. How do you get them to eat like this? Like, was it that transition?
There is a transition for sure.
Because
Okay,
for
so
like, I would struggle.
let me tell you, I did too. I'm at the grocery store buying this stuff, and I've got candy bars screaming at me or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, it is a transition. And the first thing you want to do is go through your cupboards and take away all the bad stuff. And to
Okay.
really understand what's bad, I mean, all packaged, like any vegetable oils and seed oils that you have packaged are out of there.
So
You have,
pretty much just throw away your whole pantry.
it's really
Start
sad.
over.
There are good swaps now that, I mean, we've come
Yeah.
a long way in the past 20 years, but I hate to say it. I mean, a lot of the kids that are eating the fruit snacks and eating the Cheetos and all that stuff, I mean, it's a huge transition. You know what? I didn't have it in the house. I didn't give him the option to have anything else. And so there were a couple of days of him being like, what the heck? You're feeding me broth? I mean, what kid, but I focused, growing up, we did have a lot of meat, vegetables, and potatoes. And I kind of broke it down for myself to say, okay, what meat are we having and what side vegetables are we having? And so the difference is that the meat is not going to be grilled. It's not going to be cured. It's going to be a whole ancestral, food that comes from a different kind of farm that isn't processed. So,
Mm.
and you want to focus on the easier to digest, the better, like squash soups. You could make meatballs with like turkey or, beef or whatever. It's just not putting all the junk in them. Like you
Yeah.
can't have so things are going to just taste differently. The basic idea is to get all the junk and to start healing your body. And but yes, there is a transition, and we kind of made it fun. Like I'm like, who can drink the broth? Like, luckily he has a twin, and I kind of had them both do it, and I was like, who can
Yeah.
drink broth first? So
Who could blow the biggest bubble?
yeah, I mean, use straws, try to make it fun, but it is not easy. The GAPS diet. I just think though that when you read the book, it's kind of like it's hard to digest the book. It is very
Yeah.
much like a book you'd get at school or whatever, and it's very just so. And if you have resources like Bubble Bee Apothecary, there's another resource that I actually just found recently, health what is it, healthhomeandhappiness.com, and she provides like instructions and how to implement the GAPS diet. I think she has another 30-day meal plan that she gives out free, and these
Uh-huh.
women have examples on their page of how to cook.
Okay.
And so for me, I feel like Instagram was such a helpful tool for me to just learn from other moms.
Yeah.
YouTube. And so I can't emphasize enough to just go hop on and Google GAPS diet and anyone who is teaching it and willing to give their advice. I know I'm here to do that, but I don't feel like I'm really a good resource.
Yeah. Yeah. You've done it. It healed the epilepsy. It's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's been a while, which is, I need to get back into it.
So is he on keto now?
He's on a very
or what's the difference?
he is not on keto right now, actually. He's on a modified, I don't know, keto a little bit. We watch his carbs a little bit, but because he's not had a seizure in 3 years, we've gradually implemented other things.
Uh-huh.
For a long time, we didn't allow, on youth nights or Wednesday night kids church or whatever, we didn't allow him to have any candy or whatever
Yeah.
they were giving out. But now the teacher has changed her candy to like dye free and like a better
Nice.
brand. So we're letting him right now, which
Well,
I
that's hard for a kid to I know, we do that too for a while. Anything at school they couldn't have, because I mean, it's yeah,
it's just so much when you
it
count
is.
how many
Like St.
birthdays.
Patrick's Day,
Yeah.
candy all day. But it's hard for them to be that one that can't have it.
Yes.
It's just,
Yeah.
they're
A lot of
the
times,
oddball.
yeah. And I've given them like supplements. They're like chocolate coconut bars that you get at Costco, and they're very low carbs. And I supplemented like birthdays with that little treat.
Yeah.
So
They don't know.
yeah. Well, yeah. I think he does now. I think yeah. There's some tears, but um, gotta do what you gotta do. So
Totally.
yeah.
How did you balance? Because you would do all your research, you would implement, and you said you would go down the rabbit hole. How did you not let that consume you so that it was in turn negative for you? Because I know a lot, like if I get really hopped up on something, I do a lot of research, and then it'll just like overtake me and I can't even think because I'm so like vigilant on this is how it has to be. Like,
Yeah.
how do you balance? Did you balance that,
It was really tough.
Joe?
Honestly. There's a few arguments with what he brought home from the grocery store because he, I think his intentions were good, but a lot of times he'd think something was good, and I'd be like, no, that is not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really did consume me, and honestly, it still is. I am in this place right now where I'm noticing that the focus is so much on food. Wish I just didn't have this obsession with like what's going in and what's coming out, blah blah blah. I mean, I for so many years was so fanatical about any sugar intake, but for me that was like, okay, if he has sugar he's going to get a seizure. And
Mm,
so it was related to his health.
yeah.
And so while it was hard, I'm thankful for it at the same time. I think my rabbit holes kind of, I feel like healed him. But I can understand there is a balance, and
Yeah.
there's a fine line to overthink things and then, accepting when it's okay to just, we're going to just have a little something here or whatever. With gaps, there's an intro diet in the beginning, and then you go into full gaps. And the goal is to be on it between 18 to 24 months.
Well, it's not forever.
It really isn't, but I think a lot of people are on it and they feel so good that they don't want to go.
Stay.
Yeah. And I think ultimately, if you were to stay on it that long, I think people, maybe they'll have a sourdough bread. I think the goal is to have an ancestral diet. Like you want to eat like way back when
Yeah.
versus now.
Good old
And
days.
that's the goal. I mean, make your own sourdough bread, have some of that. Although I think Natasha doesn't recommend any flour ever. I mean, you got to have some balance. I think the goal is here to heal your gut, implementing the sauerkraut and the fermented foods, the cultured dairy. Those are the things that are going to heal and seal your gut.
Huh. And the gut is connected to the brain.
Yes. So
I don't
ultimately,
know the science on that one. I just
Well,
Makes sense.
90% of our cells are found in our gut microbiome and flora. 10% of us are just
Yeah.
so our immune system functions out of our gut. And so
Uh-huh.
when we have holes in our gut and our gut flora, what happens is food particles get into the holes and into our bloodstream. And your immune system starts attacking these foreign invaders. And that is where we come up with symptoms. Whatever symptom you have, it's usually because of the leaky gut. They call it the leaky gut.
Yeah, yeah.
So your goal is if you look at your flora in your intestines, it's kind of like this villi. I mean, it's like small hair-like villi, and if they're not healthy, then you're gonna poke holes in the gut, and so the goal is to take that stock, meat stock, which is high gelatin, completely nutritious, tons of vitamins and minerals, and heal and seal the gut to stop that leaky gut.
To stop the leak. Man, I'm motivated to try it now.
I know.
I feel like I eat relatively healthy, but not to this extent.
Mhm. It does so it has 6 stages. Each stage is you start with, a week long of certain foods. There's maybe 10 or 15 foods in the beginning, and each stage kind of gradually adds a little bit more, makes
Sure.
it a little bit more diverse. The 4th week, I believe they introduce honey, or not honey, apples, fruit, I believe. And then by the 6th week, I wanna say, then it's after I forgot if it's after or before the 6th week, you start implementing, like, the fermented dairy, the
Oh,
cultured.
sure. So you can have yogurt.
Yes. And making your own,
I
though.
don't know if I could live without yogurt.
Yeah. What kind do you get right now? Is it store-bought, or do you make your own?
Store bought, but it's the Siggy's. The it's Greek yogurt, but it's like the healthy one. It's the joke with my wife. It's like, "Oh, can you get this from the store?" And I go look, and whatever's the most expensive one, that's the one she wanted because it's the most, natural ingredients. But unfortunately, it's always the most expensive.
Yeah. So for a long time, like I've not been a yogurt maker, and the yogurt that I would get, because you can't get any added sugars or anything to the gaps, it has to be completely plain. So, and us Americans are not used to plain.
Not so much.
I mean, we have a palate that has exploding flavors of Doritos and Cheetos
Yeah.
addict us. But I, for a long time, was getting just like the Fahe Greek yogurt. The key to a yogurt is that it's only 24 hours heated, 24 hours or whatever. A lot of times when you get a yogurt in the store, there really isn't much left of the good bacteria
Oh,
because
really?
heated so high, it kills all the good bacteria.
Here I am thinking I was eating healthy.
Yeah,
I'm
it
just gonna go eat some leaves and sticks.
when you think about, the store and, like, if you go to a farm right now and pick eggs from the hens and crack them open
Yeah.
at regenerative farm or whatever, not where the chickens are all caged and eating soy, but you go and crack the egg and the yolk is bright, bright yellow.
Yeah.
Compared to if you go to the store in their dead food store,
It's
you
incredible.
egg and it is like
I
bare
remember
yellow.
when we moved up to North Idaho, eggs hurt my stomach, which maybe if I did the gaps, I would heal everything and then they wouldn't hurt my stomach. But like store bought, any egg at the store. But when we moved to North Idaho, it's the land of the free. So everyone's got chickens going everywhere. And we got some eggs from our neighbor. And I remember I cooked one and it was the brightest yellow I've ever seen. And then some of them were like bright red and orange, and I ate them and they didn't hurt my stomach.
And a lot of people, that's awesome. A lot of
Yeah,
people who are allergic to dairy will find that they eat raw dairy or drink raw dairy and they're like, I have no issues
yeah.
because of their pasteurization process in the stores. To think that raw milk is banned is crazy. And to think that the things that they allow are on the shelves.
Which makes you question a lot of things before I ask that question. So, after presumably 18 to 24 months, your good bacterias are back and your gut biome is back. And then what do you do down the road? Like, I mean, you have to keep it up because you could damage it again by eating
Yeah,
bad, right?
I think that's what we're dealing with now.
Uh-huh.
Being in business has just, and we're just so busy and we're so
Yeah.
tired
Yeah.
that cooking, it's a job to cook. I mean, when you're cooking gaps, I mean, it's everything from scratch. And I don't want to discourage anyone at all. We still cook from scratch. But there has been a lot of easy meals, a lot of going out. And so um, we just kind of need to start over.
Uh-huh.
We're human and life gets busy.
Totally.
We a lot of, fast food in the last year. Not that my kids have had, oh, they have had fast food, but it's just, I still have goals of making them nutritious things. Like if you see their lunches, I don't have a dessert in their lunch every day. I don't
Yeah.
have snacks. I still have whole foods. It's just we've just had some moments, I should say.
Yeah.
So I think the goal though is to stick on an ancestral diet, to stay off of processed foods, and then just keep working at it. I mean, I think key here is to have you and your wife both be involved. I think when one person or one of the spouses are on it and the other one has
Yeah.
how to do it, I mean, that makes a huge difference.
Well, and especially if, yeah, it's like say Joe was just eating junk.
Yeah,
You know,
that would
that
yeah,
wouldn't work. No
right,
way.
right. And he was all up for eating that way. It's just like even the knowledge like to what's accepted in the stores and what's not. I mean, he'd come home with stuff. I'm like, why did you buy that? It's totally not gaps. But yeah, so if you guys are on the same page, that means so much. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So knowing what you know now, would you change anything or do you have any regrets? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Or just any of the interventions you did early on.
I'm so grateful that I got out of that naive thinking that
Yeah.
it was all taken care of by our doctors and they have the best interest for us. I think that we really need to question. I think ultimately science is a question, right? And curiosity is okay. And I think it's okay to question where they're going with your health and healing. And I would not take back anything. I am so thankful that I started the GAPS diet and we didn't follow it through, but I believe the ketogenic diet and those two diets combined healed Liam
Mhm.
and all the other camel's milk and vitamins that I had on board. It all helped him in the end.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing is even with anyone on this journey is to ask questions, be curious. If it comes to an IEP meeting or any therapy intervention that's recommended, just always be curious about it and ask why. Like, why is this appropriate for them? I don't see it, but I can be open to an explanation or diet or whatever. That's good. What do you think causes autism?
They,
The
there's
$1 million question.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not a doctor and I don't study this 24/7, but
Right.
with the gathered information that I have learned, I believe Natasha Campbell McBride is on the right. I think she says it well when she says Hippocrates believes that all diseases start in the gut, and that's her belief. But I think ultimately it's been an environmental change in our culture where it has changed our microbiome. So I believe it starts there. And environmentally speaking, I mean, if you look at the amount of, what was it? One in every 10,000 kids used to have autism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you gradually through the years, and I would say I would go back to the 30s or 40s and kind of gradually take note of what has happened and the amount of autistic kids per, like, it started one in every 10,000, then one in every couple hundred or whatever. And then now we're at one in every 32, I think.
Yeah. 32, 34.
Something like that. Yeah. Um, but Natasha she says that the more and more we continue to damage our guts, the more we're going to see it.
Right.
She believes that, our microbiomes are ultimately passed down from generation to generation. And so our grandparents' guts and our parents, their health of their gut ultimately determines the health of our children's gut. And so if we want to change it,
Man, I didn't even think of that.
change our guts. Let's change our microbiome, go back to what we really need in our bodies and change that way. Now, ultimately, if you bring up like vaccines, I think some vaccines are okay. But when you have unhealthy babies getting vaccines, it changes the whole game of vaccines.
Yeah.
When your immune system can't fight off these viruses, I
Right.
mean, and I frankly, I mean, now that I look at it, I do believe that I question their science on vaccines. If you look at the MMR, that is the one vaccine that a lot of people blame for autism.
Right.
And the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella. So there's three viruses packed in one needle. And so right now there's kind of a measles epidemic going on in Texas and kind of throughout the United States. And the fearing,
Right now, currently?
apparently,
Huh.
the fear mongering, well, apparently it started in Texas. I believe there's some measles throughout the United States.
Okay.
There was an uproar in Texas about a little girl who lost her life, and the media came out and said it was because of measles. And the fear mongering to those unvaccinated children or to the parents who unvaccinated their kids was going strong in the media. And I think when you look at the facts, it really brings a big question as to what is the efficacy
Yeah.
and of these vaccines. So the MMR, like I said, has three viruses in one. If you look at VAERS data, the VAERS is a website to go to for what is it?
The adverse reaction
Yes,
reporting
it's really
system,
yeah,
something.
it's underreported primarily. But okay, so and if you look at that, and if you look at just the data of the MMR vaccine, how many kids who have died from the MMR. It's like 106 kids in the last 20 years from the vaccine alone. But if you go and ask the question, how many people have died of measles, just measles, how many people do you think that died?
How
Two.
many?
Two people died of measles itself, but 106 have died from the MMR vaccine. To me, there's a big question mark going over what they consider science.
Yeah.
I don't, that data is backwards to me. So
Yeah.
when you look at that data and then also these parents who talk about the adverse effects of their children, I cannot go into a doctor's room and say, yeah, vaccinate my kids. I do not feel comfortable at all. So I think there's a role in vaccines playing a role in autism. I do, but yeah, I I highly recommend everyone to go and watch Vaxxed, like the first one. I think you can only find it on YouTube if
It's
or
probably banned, so
if they didn't take that off, but at children'shealthdefense.org, you'll find it there. That's
it's the RFKs.
yes. Um I after watching that, I was like, yeah, absolutely not. I will not vaccinate my kids anymore. So,
Yeah, it's eye-opening, and that's something. I mean, I'm not smart enough to dive into the science or all the nuances of this or that, but what's always stood out to me is the parent testimonials. Like, personally known a handful of parents of former students who report that they took them in to get some shot, and the next day they're banging their head against the wall, and like that can't be ignored. So that just goes back to being curious, like keep asking questions, keep doing the research, keep seeking input and advice, and then ultimately you're the parent and you
mhm.
make the call.
Yeah, don't be fear-mongered into making some bad choices. Yeah. I know there's some people who wait until a certain age. I think there's like when they're 4 or 5, they start vaccinating just but one at a time. That's also great advice. Like if you want to just
Yeah,
do one. And this is a huge thing that I also play into a decision that I made about vaccines, but in the 80s the CDC recommended 18 shots from birth to like 18 or whatever. And nowadays, there's a recommendation of over 75 vaccines, doses of vaccines from birth to I don't know what age, but I mean, that is kind of nuts as well.
that's a lot.
How can our bodies implement that? I don't know.
Yeah,
Another thing too, I just found out is that the ingredients put into the MMR, it's absolutely nuts. It says sorbitol, which is like a sugar, MSG, gelatin, chicken cells, fetal cow's blood, and then depending on which vaccine you get, it's either one or two different cell lines from aborted fetuses from the
mm,
60s that were preserved for the MMR purpose and for research. So I just found that out too. Like, really, to have that not know what is going inside of us is kind of was alarming for me to hear that.
yeah.
So
Well, and I've asked a question even with our fourth. They were trying to give him one, and I was like, "What's in it?" But nobody knew. And they're like, "Well, he's 2 pounds and 15 ounces," and I think I'm gonna question what we're putting into his body. I mean, he's got a oxygen mask on, tubes going everywhere. Like,
I don't know.
what? Can we rethink this a little bit? So, I mean, that's another key thing is research what's in them, and then yeah, ultimately make your own choice
Mhm. Yeah.
from the information you've gathered. Yeah, but that is wild. How far we've come.
Yeah. And how much we were kind of just going through like, oh, they know everything. And I think for a lot of people say that COVID really woke them up from how the medical system has gone kind of
Yeah,
haywire and
it
not trust.
definitely has its place. Um, you know, there's a lot of amazing advances, but I think the point we're getting at is make your own choice. Don't just blindly accept what's out there. Well, that's awesome. So what's for lunch today?
What do I have? Oh my goodness. The kids have burgers in their lunch with potato salad,
Okay.
pickles.
Grass-fed beef?
I think so. Yes. But yeah, like I said, we're not on the gaps right now, but we probably should. Yeah.
Well,
So
that was a lot of fun. I
Yeah,
really that was a
thanks for
fun conversation too. We're kind of all over the place, but I enjoyed it. Just all the insight on the gaps, and the biggest is just stay educated, be curious. For all the parents out there, try what works for your kid, and just keep trying.
and ultimately, I think the goal is, if you can go on the gaps, great, but if you can't, I think taking processed foods out, trying to go back to a meat potatoes diet,
Yeah,
that alone will help. I
yeah.
think.
And a big key to being able to stick to any diet is just eliminate everything from the house that's going to tempt you. Because if it's not there, what are you going to do? Get in the car and drive to the store?
What's sad is that I have done that.
Yeah, I'm going to say, man, I've probably done that.
A craving came and I'm like, "I'm going to the store." Anyway.
Yeah. But each little step along the way will get you to where you want to be.
Right. Ultimately, I think by learning from some women on Instagram or YouTube, just Google Gaps, their guidance really is helpful.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again for being on. I'm sure there'll be a lot of insight people will gather from this, and we'll stay in touch. Tell Joe what's up.
Thanks. Thanks,
All right.
Zach.
Yeah. Thank you.
Have a great night.
You
Bye.